Hi, are you thinking about raising money from investors and you're wondering what they might want to see and what they're going to ask you about before they decide whether to invest in your business? I'm excited to share some information about how to prepare for this process called due diligence. What is due diligence and how do you prepare for it? I'm Jenny Kassan. I'm a securities lawyer and capital raising coach, and I've worked with lots and lots of clients to raise money from investors, and I've raised money myself from investors. And one thing I've found is there is no one right way to do due diligence. I actually made a training video for a community of investors that I work with, and I talked about due diligence, and I talked about how really the right way for an investor to do due diligence is for them to just look at what's important to them and ask the entrepreneur that they're considering investing in for information that's going to help them get what they want to know clear before making an investment decision. And every investor is different in terms of what they care about and what they're going to want to see. Also, another thing to think about is the way you're raising money and who you're raising money from is going to make a big difference in terms of what they're going to want to see. So you might find if you're raising money from people that know you well, or maybe you're raising money from a larger number of smaller investors, like maybe you have 20 investors and the average any investor is putting in is like 10,000 or 15,000. They won't need to see as much information to make an investment decision, because A, they know you, and B, the amount they're putting in isn't such a big amount. And of course, what is a big amount is going to be different for everyone. But if you have a larger number of smaller investors, chances are you won't need to worry as much about extensive due diligence. There are things your investors are going to want to see. And also just, to be fair to them, you should want them to see these things. You want them to have full information before making a decision. And that's really legally required. You want to share any material information that they might want to see before making a decision. So these are some things to think about preparing if you think you might be talking to investors and they might ask you for some information that they're going to want to see before making an investment decision. So number one is your legal structure documents. So if you've set up a corporation, if you've set up an LLC, whatever your business is, they're going to want to see that you've set it up correctly, that you're currently in good standing with the state where you set up the entity. They're going to want to know about the structure, like what is the entity, who are the current owners of the entity, the current shareholders for the corporation, for example. How much did people invest? Do you have anyone who's receiving equity compensation, like maybe vesting stock or something like that? They're going to want to know all of that. They're also going to want to make sure you have the proper setup documents. Like if you have a corporation, do you have bylaws? Also, do you have a board of directors? Who's on the board of directors? Who are your officers? So just basically all the stuff to show that you took the time to properly set up your entity. The next thing is financials. There's two types of financials. There's the actuals, which is historical performance of your business. So hopefully up until now, you've had a decent bookkeeper or accountant who has been keeping your books, because the investors are really going to want to see what has been your performance up until now. If you are a brand new company, you won't have a lot to show. If you've been in business at all, there's going to be some financials that have been prepared. They have to be, because you need that to file your taxes. So whatever financials you have that show historically, your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, you'll want to be able to share that with your potential investors. There's another kind of financials which you might hear as called projections or pro forma financials, and that is your projections of what you think will happen in the future. We do have some resources to help you put together financial projections. We'll share the link below. And please, in your comments, let me know what have been your challenges in preparing financial projections. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Sometimes people dread doing financial projections, but honestly, it doesn't have to be that difficult. You just want to have a reasonable projection of, what revenues are going to come in, what are your expenses, what about your hiring plan, who do you need to hire. So you'll want to show some simple projections to your investors just so they can get an idea of what's likely to happen over the next several years, and be realistic. Some people want to show this hockey stick growth where, you show yourself like becoming like $100 million company in 5 years, but it's better to be conservative and realistic. And usually you'll want to show maybe for the next 4 to 5 years of what's likely to happen with your financial projections. And then another thing that I would suggest preparing for investors is a term sheet. And this is a little bit controversial because some people would say that you should not prepare a term sheet and let the investor tell you what the term sheet should be. The term sheet is the deal that you're making with the investor. What is the investor getting? But I do recommend that you take the time to think about exactly how you do want the investor to come on board and create a customized term sheet for your particular situation, because that's going to show the investor that you took the time to think it through and to figure out a way to create what we call a win-win opportunities, where you are successful because you've raised this money and your business is going to grow because of the money you've brought in, and your investor is also successful. And maybe all the other stakeholders in your business also become successful because you create more jobs, you can pay people better, offer benefits, provide good impacts in your community, etc. So it's a win-win for everyone, but the terms of the investment need to be laid out to make sure that happens. That actually happens. So those are some of the things that you're going to want to show to investors. Another thing is also, how are you going to use the money that you're raising? You don't have to be super specific about that, but just show them that you've given some thought to, okay, if you're saying you need to raise $1 million, why? What are you going to use that $1 million to pay for? Giving them an idea of how their investment is going to tie to your growth plans and how you want, what is it you want to invest in your business, and why you need the money that you're telling them you need. So those are some things to prepare for due diligence. You may want to create something called a deal room. And there's lots of software out there that creates all the, that it can be very expensive. These sophisticated deal rooms where you store all these documents and you give access to potential investors. It doesn't have to be that complicated though. You can just put all these documents in, a Dropbox folder, Google Drive, some kind of shared folder. There's a lot of them out there, but having one place where you can send investors to see all this information and putting it into different categories. So you'd have, your legal documents, your financial documents, including both the actuals and the projections, what you're using the money for, and then your term sheet if you decide to share that. So if you would like more information about how to create your term sheet, what you should be offering to investors, check out this video here, or just check out this playlist for a lot more information about how to design your offering and find the right investors. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.